St. Oscar Romero, remembered 24th of March. A Roman Catholic priest and saint, honoured in the Church of England. His statue is one of the 10 20th century martyrs placed above the door of Westminster Abbey. Born in El Salvador in 1917, the young Romero went to the local school, which only offered education up to the 3rd grade, before learning the work of a carpenter from his father. As a teenager, he felt called to the priesthood and went on to train in Rome. He returned home when his mother was ill, working in a mine with his brothers, before eventually travelling back again to complete his studies in Italy and being ordained priest during the Second World War. Returning to South America, he was detained in Cuba when his boat docked and placed in an internment camp with other priests for several months before he was eventually allowed to leave. Romero took up his work as a priest in El Salvador, working for 20 years in a poor missional parish and taking on other jobs in the diocese, including editor of the diocesan newspaper and rector of the seminary. In 1966, he had to go on retreat due to mental and physical exhaustion. He was diagnosed at this time with OCPD and scrupulosity. He was made bishop in 1970 and Archbishop of San Salvador in 1977. Romero was a social conservative, and many priests, some of whom openly supported Marxist groups, were worried that his appointment would negatively affect the Church's commitment to the poor. At this time, a priest in the diocese, who had been creating self-reliance groups amongst poor communities, was assassinated. In response, Romero revealed an activism that had not been evident earlier, speaking out against poverty, social injustice, assassinations, and torture. In 1979, a new government seized power at the start of the Salvadorian Civil War. Romero condemned the violence and injustice, and wrote a message rebuking the American President Jimmy Carter for giving military support to the new regime, and appealed to the Pope to condemn the human rights violations and the use of death squads. He was also frustrated by priests in his diocese who cooperated with the government forces. Churches, priests, nuns, schools, and diocesan media outlets were all attacked and persecuted, with about 50 people killed. Romero stated that not all priests or churches had been persecuted, only those who had gone to the defense of the suffering. At this time, the Archbishop broadcast a weekly Sunday sermon on the radio that included a list of cases of torture, abuse, and missing people, and which was the only source of such news for many. He called upon soldiers and all Christians to end the violation of human rights and to follow the higher orders of God, rather than any superiors who contradicted these. On the 24th of March, 1980, Romero was attending a retreat where they were reflecting on the nature of priestly ministry. Celebrating communion at the chapel in Divine Providence Hospital, Romero ended his sermon and stepped to stand directly in front of the altar. A gunman entered the chapel and fired a shot that passed through the Archbishop's heart, killing him. At his funeral, over 250,000 people attended. Viewing attendance as a protest, unknown individuals threw smoke bombs into the crowd of mourners and opened fire, killing many. Later investigation found that Romero's killers were government forces. On the 30th anniversary of his death, the Salvadorian government offered an official apology. Romero was made a saint by the Catholic Church amidst protests from the Salvadorian government, and is recognized by other Christian churches. He spent his life, despite personal risk, proclaiming the gospel and respect for all people under God. He was a conservative who preached social revolution through individual internal repentance and change. St. Oscar Romero is remembered this Monday, 24th of March.